Good Friday morning, and it's a beautiful, sunny, if if chilly morning in Sacramento. Uh, I have lots of friends in the Midwest, and you have my sympathy this morning because it's been insanely cold. I mean, sub-zero temperatures in the Midwest, and I hope everybody is staying safe. Uh, I haven't heard about any power outages or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I know in places like Omaha, which is a very kind of hilly town, uh, the driving conditions can be terrible. And I want you to know my thoughts are with you. And I hope you get a little warmth out of my talk today. I want to mention something today that it's easy for people who are interested in magic, and it's easy for magicians to overlook the fact that the art of magic, the spiritual art of magic, is more than just the science of magic. It is both. Okay. Um, the science part is what we get out of books, what we get out of study, what we get out of memorization of rituals, and the understanding of the forces. I mean, the understanding of the forces that we're dealing with and attempting to cooperate with and harmonize with, and under our own intelligence that help direct or cooperate in the proper direction of those forces. The art of it comes from our, lack of a better word, spiritual attitude. In other words, where we're coming from while we're doing it. Uh, like a good cook, Constance is a wonderful, wonderful cook, and but she doesn't follow a recipe. Okay, maybe at first, for the first couple months we were married, she might have followed recipes. She gets cookbooks and generally sees what to do. But then something else takes over, and she always claims that she can never make the same dish twice. It's an art, okay, and it requires a certain amount of emotional energy that is actually where the magic force takes place. And the closest thing that I can use to describe the term would be like awe, holy awe. And the magician, if you're using the imagery of magic, when the spirit looks at you or when the angel looks at the magician, they see this awe, the awe of God. They see God's countenance when they see you, and it's got to be real. Okay, you're not just doing a recipe here. You're actually God's stand-in. Okay, and that requires a certain amount of true method acting, not just aping your part, but having your part possess you. And that takes place during the invocation. And I always talk about you can follow the formula of a Goetic evocation, but unless you actually have your finger plugged into the light socket of above, and unless you're actually the vice regent of the sun upon the earth, on the earth, you're kind of a phony magician unless you're really firing on God's cylinders, okay? Somebody wrote me, and I'm reading from Ask Babylon. Let's see, during the course of the reading tonight, somebody came to Monday night class, and you mentioned something about touching the reverence or awe within, seeing that many of us in the modern day times do not have the reverence for Godhead that our forebears did. Now, that's a very good observation, because for as much as our magical ancestors were, in a sense, naively superstitious, that naive superstition gave them access that we don't have, okay, get a certain access to potentially using that holy awe. They didn't overthink the fact that there might not be an anthropomorphic deity with a big beard that's got lightning coming out of his hands, and that you'll go to hell or heaven. And okay, to us that seems a little superstitious and not helpful, but to them, it helped them slip into that awe. Oh, excuse me, but I digress. So my question would be, is it possible to practice this form of magic without utilizing the recommended, quote, worshipful countenance? I can easily find a loving, compassionate countenance, but a less worshipful one, if that makes sense, and it does make sense to me. I hear the disdain that the originators of the text of Abramelin the Mage and whoever wrote the Keys to Solomon hold toward most everyone who is not a, quote, true follower of Adonai, discounting all other practices being invalid, parlor tricks almost. And if you read the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage, or the book of Abramelin, you see that. Okay, Abramelin, just completely trashes impious magicians. And he trashes them because they don't have access to that awe. Okay? They can't. Well, anyway, okay. So, with what appears to be great familiarity with the purported creator of humanity, how is it that you know that Belial to be a pain in the ass? Just wondering. I have only rather recently grasped the role of the fallen angels in mankind's progression, and so the content of the materials that we're reading in correlation to that. I'm also quite fascinated in their offspring being genetically linked to the surviving human gene pool. Okay, now he's going off on something else that he's interested in that, frankly, I'm not that interested in myself. Okay. And he struggled with biblical concept over time. So hang on, I'm just going to skip over here. I often have, I can't believe I ate the whole thing moments. And of course, I feel like falling back into a state of semi-comatose sleep is preferable to trying to digest it all. So I guess I've been on a mission to find the proverbial bottle of spiritual Pepto-Bismol. Isn't he a great writer? Well, now I've carried on, so most of this sounds like gibberish. So yeah, once my thoughts on the matter. Okay, here we go. These are wonderful questions. Oh, dear name withheld. These are wonderful questions and observations, and exactly the kind of issues I wanted this class series to bring to the surface. And hopefully by the time we're through, many of these things will be a little clearer. You ask, is it possible to practice this form of magic without utilizing the recommended worshipful countenance? Maybe I over or underestimated the concept. I can imagine that when the great naturalist John Muir first hiked into Yosemite and saw the soft orange light of the rising sun hit the summit of one of those magnificent peaks, he just about crapped his jeans with stunned, wordless awe. It was a transcendent moment, an epiphany, an expansion of consciousness in which he somehow realized a greater reality and his place in it. Or imagine you're awakened in the middle of the night by a strange light coming from your living room, and you quietly creep out to discover Buddha sitting serenely on the carpet. And in the glow of his presence, you are enveloped by that same infinite joy, sorrow, compassion, love, bliss, and understanding his illumination represents. Are these experiences or 1,000 other scenarios of worshipful countenance you could dream up? Is it beyond your ability to imagine? My guess is your answer is no. And to make magic of this nature work, one needs to develop the power of imagination that intense, and the ability to put oneself in that frame of mind, if that's what we need to call it. Put one's in that frame of mind precisely at the right moment. Using the metaphors of magic, you can't be in awe of the great whatever it is if you can't be in awe of the great whatever it is. Then the spirits, the forces that do all the heavy lifting in the universe, will be unable to be in awe of you. In the book, Abraham the Jew achieves this attitude with what I consider to be a naive, superstitious spiritual worldview. In a way, he's lucky not to have modern science and cosmology, and in places even common sense, complicate his access to this devotional weapon. One does not need to understand how a gun works in order to pick it up and shoot it. We, on the other hand, must poke around for a more rational ways to get ourselves there. And that's more or less how I finish it up. I ask for his forgiveness for all my parentheticals. Anyway, and that's my answer on that. The invocation, which precedes most any kind of Western ceremonial magic practice, ceremony, ritual, meditation, is to do precisely that. I often bring up the fact that I studied for a short while at the Lee Strasberg Film and Theater Institute in Los Angeles. And that Strasberg teaches the Stanislavski method of acting. Actually, it was created, I guess, in Russia. It was created for opera, people who are in the opera, and then for plays and things like that. Live acting that sometimes can be well captured on film. Anyway, Strasberg is a great acting coach of Marlon Brando and the method school of acting, which is more a psychological kind of thing than it is a theatrical kind of thing, because it requires aspects of what I'm talking about here in this holy awe thing. And it deals with truth, generic truth, that if it's happening inside you, if you're being truthful to something inside you at a moment, your audience senses a generic truth beaming from you out of every pore, every small action, reaction, and facial reactions, vocal inflections. They sense a truth coming out, and within the context of a play, that truth is then translated, interpreted by the audience, who the audience does the magic of projecting that truth within the context of the plot and the character of the play and the actor. It's magic, okay? And it's like the invocation part of ceremonial magic. And the fact that a magician kind of has to trick himself or herself into truthfully capturing that awe in order to attain that divine countenance themselves that empowers them to perform the magic, empowers them to do it. And they can't think themselves into it. They can't just memorize themselves into it. All of those are attachments to the force that is invoked to give them that awe, that holy countenance. I hope that made sense. Anyway, that's it for today. Absolutely. If you're interested in a bunch of little questions and answers like that, this is Lon's version of Magic Without Tears. Okay, ask Baba Lon. So until tomorrow, for Saturday morning cartoons, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.